Undercover single dad found a pregnant girl crying at gas station, unaware she was a CEO millionaire who would change his life forever. It was just after midnight. The gas station was nearly empty, the flickering neon lights humming against the quiet night. A cold wind blew through the deserted lot, rattling the loose signs on the pump. And that's where he saw her. A young woman, no more than 25, sat on the curb near the air pump, clutching her belly with both hands. Her hair was messy, her clothes didn't match, and her face was streaked with tears. She looked fragile, broken, but there was something powerful in her eyes, something untold. Jake, a single dad in his early 30s, had stopped only to refuel his beat-up truck. He worked 2 jobs to care for his 8-year-old son, Liam, and this was just another long, exhausting night. He wasn't looking for trouble, but he couldn't ignore her. "Hey, you okay?" Jake asked softly, careful not to startle her. The girl looked up, her eyes wide and red. For a moment, she tried to wipe her tears, forcing a weak smile. "I'm fine, just needed some air." But her trembling hands told a different story. Jake wasn't buying it. He had been through enough pain in his own life to recognize the look of someone carrying a burden too heavy to bear. He knelt down a few feet away, keeping his voice gentle. "It's freezing out here. You shouldn't be sitting alone. Do you need help?" For a long moment, she hesitated, as though deciding whether she could trust him. Finally, her voice broke. "I have nowhere to go. No one wants me anymore. And I'm having a baby." Her hand moved protectively to her stomach. Jake's heart sank. He didn't know this girl's story yet, but he knew what it felt like to be abandoned. His wife had walked out on him and their son years ago, leaving him to raise Liam alone. He knew the shame, the loneliness, the fear. Without thinking twice, he offered, "Listen. I don't know you, but I can't leave you here like this. If you need a ride, or even just a safe place to sit for a while, I'll help. I'm a dad. I get it." That was the beginning of something neither of them expected. The beginning of trust. Her name was Emily. At first, she refused to share much about herself, insisting she was just another mistake waiting to happen. But Jake didn't press her. He took her to a small diner, bought her a warm meal, and simply listened. Over pancakes and coffee, Emily revealed fragments of her truth. She was pregnant and alone. The father of the baby had abandoned her when he found out, and her own family had turned their back on her because she had chosen to keep the child. Jake nodded with understanding. "People think walking away is easier," he said, his voice rough with memories. "But that just leaves scars. Trust me, I've been there." For the first time that night, Emily smiled faintly. There was something about Jake, his honesty, his quiet strength, his kindness, that made her feel safe. What Emily didn't tell him, though, was her secret. She wasn't just a broken girl with no one to lean on. She was the CEO of a major company, a millionaire hiding from the ruthless media and investors who only cared about her money and power. She had stepped away from everything because she wanted her child to grow up with love, not under the shadow of headlines and business wars. But she couldn't reveal that, not yet. 2 worlds collide. Over the following weeks, Emily and Jake's paths kept crossing. Sometimes by accident, sometimes by choice. Jake would check in on her, bring her groceries, or give her rides to the doctor. Emily, in turn, began spending time with Liam, who adored her immediately. She was patient, kind, and always brought laughter into their small, worn-down home. Jake noticed how Emily lit up around his son, how she laughed freely with him, and how she looked at Jake with quiet gratitude. For a man who had buried his dreams long ago, her presence was like sunlight breaking through years of clouds. But beneath it all, Emily struggled. She wanted to tell Jake the truth about who she was, that she wasn't just some girl abandoned at a gas station, but a woman with the power to change both their lives. Yet, she was terrified. What if he looked at her differently? What if he thought she was only helping out of pity or obligation? And Jake? He fought his own doubts. Could he really open his heart again after so much betrayal? Could he let Emily in, knowing she carried a past he didn't fully understand? The breaking point. One night, everything came crashing down. Jake lost his second job at the warehouse. Rent was overdue, and he had just enough to buy food for Liam. Sitting in the kitchen, head in his hands, he whispered, "I can't do this anymore." Emily walked in, carrying a bag of groceries. She froze when she saw the pain etched on his face. Quietly, she set the bag down and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You don't always have to carry the world alone, Jake," she said gently. But that only broke him further. He pulled away, ashamed. "You don't get it. You don't know what it's like to struggle every single day, to wonder if you'll fail the only person who counts on you." Emily's eyes filled with tears. This was the moment, she couldn't hide anymore. "Jake. I do know. More than you think." With trembling words, she revealed everything: her position as a CEO, her wealth, the empire she had built, and the emptiness that came with it. "I walked away from all of it because money couldn't give me love, or peace, or a family. I just wanted someone to see me, not the millionaire, not the businesswoman, but the broken girl who needs love just like anyone else." Jake was stunned. He stared at her, trying to process it. Emily, this girl he thought was barely surviving, was a millionaire? It felt like betrayal, but then, he saw the vulnerability in her eyes. She wasn't lying to manipulate him. She was showing him the one thing she had hidden from the world, her heart. A new beginning. After days of silence, Jake realized something. It wasn't about her money or her title. It was about who she had been with him and Liam, kind, selfless, real. That was what mattered. He found her at the same gas station where they had first met, sitting in her car. With a deep breath, he said, "You could have been anyone, Emily. But to us, you were exactly who we needed. That's all I care about." Emily's tears spilled freely as he pulled her into an embrace. From that moment on, their lives intertwined in a way neither expected. Emily helped Jake find stability, not by flaunting her wealth, but by teaching him how to rebuild with dignity. Together, they created a home where Liam thrived, and where Emily's child would be born into love. And Jake? He gave Emily something money could never buy: trust, family, and unconditional love. The inspiring message. Years later, they often looked back on that night at the gas station. The night a single dad, exhausted and struggling, reached out to a crying stranger, and found not just hope, but a love that transformed everything. It was proof that sometimes the people who look the weakest are carrying the greatest strength, and sometimes the ones who seem the strongest are silently breaking inside. But when hearts choose compassion over judgment, miracles happen. And the message they lived by was simple yet powerful: true wealth is not measured in money, but in love, kindness, and the courage to open your heart when the world tells you to close it.